Okay, welcome everyone to the first episode of the NML Pickleball podcast. I am Chris Ross, aka Gritty, and to my right is
Jeremy Comadetto, also known as Slim.
So we're the NML Pickleball guys, and we're doing a podcast, and we're not going to talk about ourselves to start here. If you don't know who we are, you can go find that out there. We went on Laura McLaughlin's Pickleball After Dark podcast, RIP, and we talked about our anonymity and everything there. Went on Eddie and Webby, went on the Pickler. You can hear the intros there and hear about us. We don't need to talk about ourselves. What are we here to talk about, Jer?
We're here to talk about pickleball, in particular the MLP draft, our winners and losers, and look at some upcoming events and recap Denver.
Your announcer. I like your announcer voice.
We'll get more natural here, hopefully, in time.
Yeah, so, we're just going to try and sort of do what we do with the blog. It's not going to be just results and recaps. We're just going to try and do what interests us and talk about that. And hopefully everyone enjoys it, because there's a lot we don't say on the blog that we say in person. We might not say it on the podcast. We'll see. So why don't we just get into it? We've got winners and losers from the MLP draft that happened last Wednesday, and there's Premier and Challenger draft for season 2. Jer, why don't you get into some winners?
I don't even know if I did this right. I didn't start with the teams. We didn't talk too much about formats. I had as my number one winner, hyped or high upside women. We had Tyra Black, Vivian Glosman, two of the women that have been getting a lot of hype, both getting picked to go in Premier, despite maybe the results not being there yet. And then also the big shock of the Premier draft, Rachel Rohrbacher, hopefully I said that right, also went first round. So it was obvious that a lot of teams decided they wanted to take a shot there late on those upside women. And I think, if you're getting a lot of hype, Tyra and Vivian have probably been the two most hyped women we've had come along this year. That goes a long ways. Teams feel justified in drafting a player if, they've got some hype with them.
Yeah, and I, of course, we're too much on the same wavelength too often, but my winner was just upside unknown players for both the Premier and Challenger draft. And it's interesting how all this works, because you've got a lot happening with MLP. You kind of have this flavor of the month, sort of who's hyped up, as you said, who's hyped up. Tyra gets a lot of publicity on podcasts. James Ignatowicz hypes her up. It seems like she's Jimmy Miller hypes her up. There's a lot of hype online for these players. Vivian Glosman played with Anna Bright, and she really, Vivian hasn't had very good results outside of that Anna Bright partnership. It's going to be interesting to see how those teams do. So who's Hurricane? Hurricane is with, she's with Miami. So she's got Federico, Tyson, and Mary Brasha.
Tough spot.
Why?
I don't think she's ready at all to be your number one woman, a dominant left side woman. And that's what she's going to have to be on this team. She doesn't have the tools. You've got two guys that are borderline first to second round picks. That's the team that's going to need a lot of help. And I think that's an awful situation. You're pairing her with Mary Brasha, who I don't think is a premier player. I am saying Miami's going to be in the tank this season.
Tank? I don't know. I like Federico and Tyson together. I think they're both kind of underrated. I think they're sort of both underrated guys in a way. But Tyra and Mary B it's a tough. We saw with the hard eights, and their men. I don't know. AJ Kohler was so bad last year or last season, but their men couldn't carry to women who weren't, where you didn't have a high end woman. So these teams that are going with these upside women. It's a little, I mean, Vivian Glosman, she has Vivian David, who's steadier. We haven't really seen it with Vivian at MLP. Rachel Rohrbacher's with Anna Bright. It'll be really fascinating to see how these swings pay off, because people are swinging for the fences, and they're not worried about, like, and these teams Miami's in a better spot, so I don't know. I don't know what this means for some of these teams where they're taking these big swings, but these players are still so unknown.
Explain to me why we're on the Rachel thing, why Anna Bright would take Rachel when she says she can win with anybody in women's doubles, and we know it takes longer to figure out the mixed game for women. So why aren't you taking a more proven or established mixed player in that spot? What is the upside to that pick when you've got Anna Bright?
So Anna said on her podcast that she was sorry, but it doesn't help Susanna Barr that she was sorry that she didn't pick Susanna. Are you saying Susanna should have been the pick because Rachel, she can win if she can win with anyone in women's, or she feels like she can win with anyone in women's, she might as well take someone with more mixed upside or more just mixed ability to actually round out the team?
Yeah, Susanna's one option, but you're taking an unproven commodity who probably really isn't ready for mixed doubles in that spot. You've gone yourself. I think she was smart going guys back to back. It's actually crazy that Andre was the only guy taken in the second round. I think it was really smart to go guy after going girl. But then I think you're putting yourself in a spot where you want somebody that can play mixed doubles, and why not go with somebody that probably Zane's going to be more comfortable playing with? I'm not sure Rachel is actually the highest upside pick for that team.
Well, it was funny. I was listening to King of the Court this morning, and Jimmy put out the question of why Anna wouldn't take Vivian Glosman, and they were all very cagey about it seemed like they had some information and they didn't want to share the information about why Anna wouldn't pick Vivian Glosman. I don't know, did you listen to that? Did you see?
I did. I think Jimmy's playing games as usual, but
well, okay, so we'll see how these high-end women go. I think it was also interesting to see both in Premier and Challenger. Like, if we're talking about, again, winners is upside unknown players, I think, from the, not just women. I think for Premier it's women, but I think for the whole draft it's upside just players in general. Because in Premier we saw Hunter Johnson, Christian Alshon go in spots where there might have been other more proven players. Hunter Johnson, he's dating Paris Todd, so that's helpful for him. And he played for the Bouncers, so they have some familiarity with him. They can build their marketing Instagram team. And Christian Alshon, still a weird pick to me.
Yeah, I'm obviously higher on the Christian Alshon upside than you, but it was a little bit of an odd pairing after DC had hit the lottery, sort of, I think, and how that team was coming together. Probably one of the fits would have been Tyler Loong, but listening to King of the Court this morning, I was reminded that Tyler and Riley hate each other, so that's probably why that one didn't happen. But I would still love to hear from Riley why he didn't go AJ Kohler in that spot. I know AJ's had a down year, but I think Riley's still got some tournaments coming up now as AJ, so I'm curious why that wasn't the pick there.
When I watch Christian play Challenger, like, he's on the left with Pablo, and he's not dominating mixed. I think I said this to you last week, that he's not dominating mixed. Rachel Summers was clearly solid enough that he should have been able to win a lot of matches. He's a Premier player now. I don't know. It's a weird pick.
Maybe Riley just wanted to block Annalee from getting him.
That would be hilarious. I still wonder if DC wants a marketable player, and Christian has his vlogs that I haven't really been watching his vlogs, if I'm being honest. But
I'll let maybe somebody else talk about it, but I would be curious what Christian Alshon's markability is. If you want an AI bot, then yeah, he might be the pick.
Okay. The other guys that I want to mention in Challenger, there's a bunch. So I want to mention all these guys. I'm going to go through them because I wrote them down, prepared for the podcast. Colin Schick, I don't know how to pronounce it. Wame, Martinez Vic, Martin Emmerich, Jordan Kinney, Marshall Brown, your girl Dominique Schaefer, Andre Mick, Allie Phillips. I hope I didn't miss anyone, but who stands out to you from that list of upside players that were picked?
Well, obviously those are all kind of upside players. It's funny because I thought I was probably higher than anybody on Colin Schick heading into this draft, and somehow Travis Redmeyer in the Florida Smash blew me out of the water, taking Colin at 15. I would love to hear their rationale on that. I think Colin potentially profiles very well as that singles guy who can really play some number 2 guy challenger for you and get you some wins there. But to take him at 15 when we really haven't, outside of a couple mixed wins, seen much doubles from him, and I think there's a lot of questions about where his men's doubles game is at. So taking him in the second round seems crazy to me.
Well, he lost singles this weekend to Anik Lohani in 3 really tight games. He didn't make it onto the doubles qualifier with Jim Dobrin. They ended up playing the main draw. I don't know if it's a lucky loser or something, but they didn't make it onto the qualifiers. It's a little bit concerning. I was less high on you than Colin Schick. I didn't actually have him in my 48 challenger guys, I don't think. But I think that one was... You could have also gotten him later, maybe?
That's what I think. Isn't he going to be available third round? Also, what's maybe even more interesting to me is that a couple of the players on that list you just went through haven't really been playing tournaments this year. Like, has Jordan Kinney played a tournament this year?
Yeah.
And
I think we looked it up. He hasn't played a tournament since October. I think I hadn't seen his name. He has the high duper on the list. And then Lauren Stratman posted on Twitter, I saw, I think, that Jordan Kinney, definitely a challenger player, which we're finding out everyone and their mother is a challenger player. And literally probably their mother. They think their mother's a challenger player. But Jordan Kinney, how can you take a guy... I mean, they probably talked to Lauren or someone. Lauren's from Knoxville. Jordan Kinney's from Knoxville. I just don't know. He hasn't played mixed I looked through all his tournament history. He hasn't played a single mixed event. He doesn't play singles. And he had one really standout men's doubles event with Tito Ladro, I think, against Julian Arnold and Rafa Hewitt. And they almost
Isn't this the Greg Dow pick from last draft, but at least Greg Dow was still playing tournaments? This is a 3 event style format, and we're taking a guy who is probably at that level in men's doubles, but we haven't seen it in almost a year. And we're just somehow presuming that he can magically play mixed, which we know is a very different game in singles. Unless they have a crazy amount of intel that he's getting regular high-end mixed practice and can play singles, I actually think that pick is insane. And another guy who he played this weekend and did all right, but hasn't been playing a lot of tournaments, is Marshall Brown. Do you know much about him, Chris?
I mean, we've talked about Marshall. We saw him last year play with Eva Radzikowska in Alabama, and we're like, who's this guy? And he looked good, and Eva looked really good. We weren't sure exactly how good he was, but he's had some good results. Good player, Rafa Hewitt in that BLQK draft war room. So obviously, they're both Alabama guys. I think he's probably pushing for Marshall, but I just I haven't seen these guys play, but I just have a problem, and I don't know how you feel about this, but picking guys, there's so many guys that aren't going to look out of place at Challenger. I think I have a problem picking these guys who probably aren't going to look out of place, but but you need to see them do it, I think, against good competition, or else what are you getting? Like, if you don't see them doing it regularly, I don't know what that is, that what you're getting from them. And Marshall at least plays mixed. He's been playing singles, he plays men doubles, so there's at least that over Jordan Kinney. But these guys who aren't playing enough, I don't know. It's a lot of faith in whoever your sources are that are saying these guys are ready for Challenger.
Men's double specialists, your Callan Dawsons, Patrick Smiths, Steve Deakins, etc. And so, those guys aren't getting picked, but we have Callan Dawson, who we know is an elite men's doubles player. And I don't think his mixed is great. And we know he can't really play singles, but he seems to be getting penalized because we see it. But teams are all right to take shots on guys. At least he's out there getting reps in the mixed doubles every weekend. We've got teams willing to take shots on guys that literally we don't know if they can play it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I had a loser as well. Of course, we didn't even, I told us not to talk about our winners and losers, but of course my losers were just like legacy players. And we had some discussions about this before the draft. I like some of these legacy players. I don't like them. I thought they should be way down on the board, but I had Pat Smith firmly in my top 48. I had Callan Dawson firmly in my top 48 Challenger. I don't know, with that second spot, I think a lot of these teams could have gone with one of those guys. As long as they were fine in singles, if you take Callan, like in Jordan Kinney, I don't think he can play singles. Why would you not take Callan Dawson or even Pat Smith, have them sit on the right in a partnership and just be really steady for you? I don't really get it. But you had Pat Smith, I think, off your board, or did you?
Yeah, I do want players still with some rise and some potential, but I think there's a happy medium out there. Like, to me, Pat Smith is playing out the string. I haven't seen much improvement in his game. He's all right in mixed. He's all right in men's. Can't really play singles. I get the argument for taking Callan Dawson, but I'm not running to do it.
He went 6-4 with Bobby Oshiro over the 3 events, I think.
Bobby Oshiro, number 6 pick, so maybe she was the reason. That's certainly what Frisco saw.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, again, you have these guys like, you have Jeff Warnick, Steve Deacon, and Kyle Yates, I don't know if it really counts. He's missing the first event. But
I don't think it's fair to put Kyle in that. He goes way higher if he's not missing an event.
Well, the other legacy guys in Premier who also dropped, I don't know, it's weird to call them legacy guys, but Jay, AJ Kohler, Deckel, all kind of they've been around the block a bit. They all fell as kind of legacy guys. So I think people are really, and it might be a shift into too much priority, especially in Premier potentially, but a shift where someone like Hayden, because people, I don't know, some people who is it? I don't know if it's quite right. Is it the Kitchen that loves Hayden Patrickin?
Yes.
I think they love him, and I don't know if I quite see it with Hayden being, just because I think people like him because he's small, even though he's 18. They like the small little guy. He's very good, but I just don't think he's as good as everyone thinks he is. So people want this perceived upside because he's little and younger.
Another winner I had was the former Fives players. I actually think it's insane that 3 of them went in the first round and Hayden Patrickin with the last one of them picked early 3rd round. I know they made the finals at the end of the last event of the season, but if you're telling me that they've got 3 first round picks and Hayden is a early 3rd round pick, that should be a dominant team. They weren't like Seattle out there. They were bad part of the year. I think I can buy into there might be some chemistry issues with that team, but
are those winners or losers then? Why are they winners?
Well, the players are winners because they went first round. Yeah, Leah Jansen's probably pretty happy she was a first round pick.
James kept saying he didn't want to be a first round pick. He might be a loser.
Well, I think their teams are losers. I think James' team got saved because Jay fell, but I have Leia and Hayden's team as two of the big losers in the draft. Annalee's team is good, but I think she deserved to kind of go where she did or around there, and she got the AJ Kohler pick. But they were winners in that they were viewed well. I think they finished the season well, but like, did too many teams just remember that last event?
Yeah, I think that's always a recency bias. I mean, we're guilty of it as well, as much as anyone probably, or hopefully not. Actually, hopefully not as much as anyone. The Annalee Waters thing is super interesting because I didn't think they did that well with their draft, but people, including Conor Pardo, loves to pat himself on the back. He is, but everyone is on with the Annalee's team's the favorite. I don't know if I really agree with that.
Well, I think if AJ Kohler hits, they probably are the favorites or close to it. Like, I think you're looking at maybe things swinging too far. Has the pendulum swung too far on AJ Kohler? There's going to be at least one event, I think, where AJ plays well and Utah probably comes close to dominating.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I just didn't actually think they got lucky with AJ. I didn't think they did a great job drafting, but if Irina wins another MLP championship, I mean, I don't know what
I also actually still don't know why Annalee's team insists on taking girl in that second or third round. I think that the formula still should be Annalee, two guys, and then you go your girl. But I think, as always with the Annalee teams, it's about what makes her look good, not what's best for the team. So
are you maybe alluding to potential terrible Dreambreaker strategy because Annalee just wants to beat a guy and be able to say in a post-game
Why
interview?
did nobody talk about that all season? Their team was built for Dreambreakers, but you've got Hayden, who was their weakest singles player. He's a good, not great singles player, but he can probably go 2-2 most of the time against team's second Dreambreaker guy, but he's not built to play against girls. Like, he doesn't cover the net great, and he doesn't have elite ground strokes, but instead of maximizing their advantage of having the two best women singles players in Annalee and Leia, they kept going for the ego trip and putting Annalee out there against guys, and they never went away from that all year despite their awful Dreambreaker record. And I'm surprised people didn't talk about that more or criticize it more. It was the most obvious poor strategy move, I think, of MLP last season.
I did enjoy her pounding her chest against Tyson, who was not one to flex, so it seemed very unfair to Tyson that she would flex on him like that.
He doesn't flex. He's just a good family man.
He is a good family man. Another loser I had was poor Jillian Braverman.
Of course, I had that too.
Did you? I added it late too.
I think also the other loser there is that a lot of teams that didn't pick her.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't expect since early on in the blog days when I wrote, I think it was me solely, I think we put that as, where I went in on Jillian about her serving into the empty court. That was it was not good, I didn't think. And so I can't believe I'm like feeling the Jillian champion right now. Team Jilly B, that she should be drafted premier, but it seems like, I don't know, it seems messed up that she's not getting drafted.
Yeah, it obviously teams put too much into chemistry. This is a 3-event thing. Jillian Braverman is a premier player, and we were talking earlier. That's another player I'd love to hear Anna Bright's reasoning for not drafting. If you want some upside there while still getting proven, why not go Jill Braverman? And we can talk about there's going to be at least a couple owners, I guarantee you, at the end of this MLP season that are wondering why they listened to their players and didn't pick her when they're watching girl who probably isn't a premier level player lose repeatedly. And I think it was a mistake that she fell to 5 in the challenger draft. Teams really swung back towards the dominant guy strategy, and I generally like that strategy when we're talking about. I actually last season thought that Ben Johns should have been the first pick. But we're not talking in the challenger level about a Ben Johns or a Riley Newman. Like, I know a lot went wrong with Brooklyn last season, but Rob Nunnery was not able to save that team, and now we're taking him first overall. Jill Braverman is Annalee Waters at the challenger level. We've seen it. She saved and turned around the Dallas Pickleball Club. Why did she fall to 5?
Yeah, I mean, I was, again, listening to King of the Court, and they have some good stories on there. So Jimmy Miller said, essentially, Jillian tried to get him canceled because he said some stuff about her on a podcast. His wife, I guess, was messaging that Discord group about their mock draft and why they forgot. I think Jimmy they forgot that Jillian was picked like 10th overall in that mock draft in Challenger. But she's mad about a Discord mock draft, and I think we're seeing it just with ourselves. People are getting really mad about things that are said publicly because it impacts perception. And clearly, like, Jillian's perception out there and how much people seem to dislike her, like, is a real problem. Enough to the point that she went down to 5th overall, and it's crazy. Like, she should be number 1 overall, but people hate her that much, it seems like, which at a certain point, you just have to put that aside. Like, Tyra had played with Jillian this weekend, and how much better... I put Jillian on the right. She'd be fine on the right if Tyra can't play They played together this weekend. Like, if you put Jillian on that team, I think you actually have a good Miami team.
Well, also, you talk about her not being liked. That's also in some ways a benefit. If I can get my 4th round pick that I know can get under the skin of the other team, like, that's actually like an asset. She's kind of like the Ron Artest or whatever. Nobody wants her, so she's undervalued. You get her on a discount deal because nobody really wants her on her team. But then she's also living in that other team's head because they can't stand her. Like, it is crazy that she fell to 5 in Challenger, and the justifications from some of the players, it honestly doesn't hold up.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me yesterday. You sort of forget about her trash talking, like Brandon French, Jeff Warnick. I think we put it in our Challenger draft grades that's an underrated part of her. So it is. It's I think it's nuts that she didn't go, and she even went 5th in Challenger, so that the Hustlers got value there. Whoever was drafting that team, they like Jillian enough to draft her there. Clearly. So the other, you touched on it, but a loser I had was the female 1-2 rounds 1 and 2 as optimal draft strategy. It's funny how, like, I think things shift so quickly. We get we have a season of MLP without any premier players, and everyone's like, we gotta go female because these teams, Paris and Irina, and then you get Jackie Kawamoto with a terrible trade with Anna Bright. So, okay, female is the optimal strategy. So that's thought of in the first draft, and now you want Annalee Waters as your first pick, not Ben Johns. But now here we are, we see how good Ben Johns is, so every team is like, oh, we need a strong alpha guy, which I think makes sense. I like that idea, but
but then you have teams taking Julian Arnold 7th overall because they're looking for that alpha guy, and I'm sorry, Julian Arnold isn't Ben Johns or Riley Newman.
Well, I don't know. Who do you have there? I think I had Julian Arnold like 7 on my board. So I don't know. Is Julian, what's the difference between Julian, James, Fed, Dylan? Like, is it, I actually think Julian's okay.
Well, here's my thing is maybe it is a girl there. I think teams swung too much trying to find that alpha guy, especially you look at how that 2nd round shaped out, and it was predictable, only one guy going in the 2nd round. Why wouldn't I go get myself an Etta Wright or a dominant female and then go guy in the second round, because if I can get I'd rather have, say, Etta Wright and Andre Diescu than I'd rather Julian Arnold and then a girl.
And then Vivian David.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think I had Julian in that, like, around that spot anyways.
I just think there's a big drop-off in guys after we get past JW.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think we haven't posted it yet, but it will be posted. Like Dylan Fraser, I wrote about for takeaways, like for Denver, just about like what is Dylan Fraser really. I don't know. I think there's a big drop off at those spots, but I mean, going back to just like what is optimal strategy, like and we've talked about this, but I don't think there is optimal strategy. I think teams focus so much on like Jimmy Miller. I keep referencing Jimmy, of course. I'm clearly obsessed, but that he was talking about. Them going 1-2, like they were going to go girl no matter what at that 12-13 spot in Challenger, and I just don't think pre-planning that is the right thing necessarily. But it's changed. The narrative shifts, and there's a decent chance it shifts again. I think so. I think that's a loser, but it could become a winner again. Female is the optimal strategy.
Yeah, it's obvious that teams right now probably are swinging too much one way and then the other.
Yeah. I don't know if you had any other winners and losers. I don't know if it's time to move on from these. Did you have anything else?
I had another quick one, Brandon French. Now, I kind of hate bashing on him because I didn't think he was a Challenger player last season, and he proved me wrong, but he's a winner. It's pretty good to have friends in high places, because I think a borderline Challenger player that injured wrist, I don't know if he's playing right now or not. There's no way he doesn't get drafted if he isn't friends with Tom Dundon, but hey, it's gotten him drafted twice now. So congrats to Brandon French. Then on the losers, I had Frisco Clean Claws. They're going for the perfect 0-18 season, and also their first season players all basically took major hits. Matt Wright is out of MLP. Zane fell to the third round, and Lina and Yana, for whatever reason, I get how they fell to Challenger. That makes sense to me, but it seems like they fell too far in that Challenger draft.
Yeah, just you mean Frisco Pandas first.
Frisco Pandas.
And the Brandon French thing, that's a funny one because the wrist injury, I think you got to be really careful about injured players, but and French, it's a wrist injury. It's been lingering for a while, so he's lucky to be friends with Tom Dundon. It's good for him. I wish I was friends with Tom Dundon.
Fair.
I don't have anything more. Why don't we? You want to talk about Denver?
Sure, you can lead that one.
Yeah, so we PPA Denver this past weekend. I know lots of people like to just do results and go through the brackets. We always do our takeaways on the blog. We're not going to regurgitate all our takeaways, I don't think, here. We'll have those. Well, by the time this gets up, hopefully we actually get it up and have the capability to do so with our producer Allissa here in the background, trying to do all this stuff while we just sit back and talk. But I don't know. I had a couple things that I wanted to touch on as takeaways that aren't in our takeaways. So what do you have? Do you want me to go or you?
You can go. Okay,
well, this is actually probably your takeaway, but it's maybe people are tired of the MLP stuff. But Connor Garnett, big weekend. He had Etta Wright got a bronze in mixed. Etta's gotten a number of bronzes actually with she had it with Travis last year. I can't actually remember. Did she get another mixed medal? Maybe not. Maybe she did. But Connor Garnett having a really big weekend and might be saving the Bay Area Breakers from their... I guess they're okay with the nepotism because they did so well in season 1, but going Rafa at 35 or wherever he went in the third round.
When also are people going to start talking about the conflict, which is Richie owning parts of 2 MLP teams?
What is the conflict?
it's pretty apparent there's multiple conflicts. Travis Redmeyer fairly gets a lot of criticism for being a player and owner, but nobody really seems to want to talk about the fact that there's a major conflict that Richie owns two teams. And, if MLP wants to be taken seriously as the professional sports league, they probably need to clean that up at some point.
I think Jeff Wynn is technically the GM of that team, although I don't know
Well,
if Jeff
GM.
I don't know if Jeff selected Rafa, despite Rafa being in the draft consultant role for PLQK.
Again, there's just conflicts there, and I'd love somebody to explain to me why they don't seem to view that as a conflict.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with any of that. What about your guy though, Connor Garnett? You told me you thought.
Well, yeah, I think there's a decent chance he was the guy that was probably gonna go in to Premier that I thought could take a leap and really help a team. And he may save Richie's awful drafting. I thought that pairing Leia and Etta was a mistake. I would have gone Etta and found somebody else that is better suited to play with her in that role. And then Rafa, still living off that MLP guy hype, I guess. You can possibly justify him as a fourth rounder playing that right side while still giving you some okay mix. But to take him in the third round was brutal. But if Connor Garnett makes that leap as a dominant left side guy, then it might all work out.
I sometimes feel a little bad saying all the things about Rafa because I didn't believe in him as a pro player, but he's definitely proven both of us wrong there. And so every time with all these people like Irina and Catherine, even Rafa, I like Rafa, but he's going to prove us wrong again now that we're saying this.
Yeah, if he does, it's going to Connor Garnett. So that's my prediction.
So you're giving all credit to Connor.
Yes.
Okay, fair. What do you have? What else do you have for takeaways? I have one more that's not... Actually, what did you think? You were going to write about this, but what about the back draw?
Yeah, I'll save most of it for the takeaways, but I think it's just way too early. MLP. The PPA is trying to be something that it isn't yet. Pickleball is so new. Pro pickleball is so new. Johnny Goldberg had a good point. For 10 players, top 10 players, no backdraws, a good thing. The rest of those players need those reps. What do you do if you're a contracted PPA player that is still an up-and-comer? You can only play those PPA events, but suddenly you're getting a lot of 1 and 2 days, 1 and 1 days now. I don't get what the PPA is really trying to do. No, Ben Johns, Annalee Waters, Riley Newman don't need to be grinding backdraws, but a lot of players need that. And they're counting on the APP still being around, I guess. Is that what they're doing?
What do you mean? Who's counting on them?
The PPA, because they don't have a development system if you don't have the APP.
Yeah, I guess, do they care? Do they need a development system?
Well,
why do they care about a development system?
They don't, but it's ridiculous because pickleball is so new and you can't rely on just that people are going to stay interested. We're already bored because you're getting the same finals, the same players over and over. If you want to ensure that Annalee Waters stays the best female for 10 years and pickleball dies, and maybe it's a good idea, but you need to worry about developing the sport, I think, if you want it to grow into the next big thing. So they should care.
Yeah, I mean, they so often just seem to care about what the top players want, and they very much cater to them. And I think what they really care about, they just care about winning the game. They care about in the game. By that I mean they care about winning the tour wars. They care about beating.
But you're not going to win it doesn't matter if you win the tour wars if pro pickleball isn't a thing people care about. So it's very short-sighted.
And I'm not sure. I'm just thinking about this. But do people really? Is it going to matter that much to people, though, that Annalee and Ben keep winning? I don't actually know if it matters it's like going to kill the sport. Like people are still going to develop some way, somehow. Is that the only way? Because there's no backdraw, suddenly we're not going to have players that can develop? I'm not actually sure that's true. I don't know if I disagree with you like completely, but I just don't know that is that possibly a little extreme?
It's a little, but I don't think it's a lot, because I think it really I think the issue's going to be if the APP tour doesn't exist and there isn't another viable pro tour, the PPA is not going to have incentives to play players more, especially the lower players that aren't your top 10 players. And there's going to be not a huge incentive for players to invest the time in becoming a top pro, because they're not going to be able to like afford to eat to get there. And it's no longer going to be that you can walk out in 10 minutes or, like you're not going to see Anna Brights even, who can hang at the pro level in 6 months. That time is going to get longer. And if you don't have a viable futures development tour, whatever you want to call it, and players can't get multiple reps at the pro level of game experience, it's going to be a real problem.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I don't know, like you have these people who you're paying right now, I think $250 all in to play just one event. So if you want to play one pro event, it's going to be $250, and then you got to put in your housing or whatever expenses to get there. And there's a problem. You have these giant draws now with qualifiers. Are these draws going to diminish because people seem more than willing to pay it now, because so many people are it seems like quitting their jobs to go full-time pickleball before they're established at all, which may be what you have to do at this point. But a lot of people are putting their eggs in the pro basket, but maybe they go elsewhere to the APP, maybe they do something else. But I think it's definitely an interesting thing to see how that develops in terms of the backdraw, and like whether it matters and whether they're going to see less players in draws, and whether they're going to go the APP or just play more local tournaments to get better, or play minor league pickleball. There's options out there right now. So I think that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I just think as usual, the PPA is catering to the top players, which fine, but their short-sightedness I don't think is going to serve them well in the long term.
So speaking of catering to their players, one of the takeaways that we didn't have in the blog that I want to talk about is Conor Pardo being the biggest fanboy of his PPA players, which I think is funny, because he started being more active on Twitter, and he's just recently he's talking how ridiculous it is that Callan Dawson doesn't get drafted. Ben Johns is the most amazing player he's ever seen in his life. It's hilarious to see him doing this, because what have we heard, Jer?
Well, we've heard that maybe some of the PPA players, contract players, maybe even some of those stars they cater to aren't super happy right now. And I can't help but think that's more than a coincidence on the timing. It sounds like there's some special events and things that players are getting not banned or not allowed to go to. So suddenly those restrictive covenants in the contract are being enforced and players aren't happy.
Whoa, restricted covenants. That's a big word.
You would know, you're the lawyer.
I just, I don't want to take away this was your thought, and I thought it was a really good thought, because we had heard this about the PPA players not being happy, and you saw the Callan Dawson thing, and you mentioned to me that Callan is, these guys like Pat Smith's another one. There's not too many of them that are PPA contracted players. I think Regina Goldberg is PPA contracted. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, and these people aren't getting drafted to MLP, and so they don't get the double, because if you go challenger and you're PPA, you get double the money of a challenger player. It's a good chunk of money. So they're talking about on the It Feels Right podcast as well, like Rob Nunnery was mentioning how players were getting blocked. And so you had mentioned, though, when you saw that Callan thing that Connor posted, that it looks like he's trying to carry their water and trying to pump them up, trying to do something so they're not as disgruntled because things aren't going their way. And it's I don't exactly know what to make of it, but it's coincidental timing. We're just reading between the lines, but I thought that was fairly astute of you.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Do you have any other Denver Open stuff besides the boring Triple Crown stuff that we don't really need to talk about anymore?
No, honestly, I thought it was a fairly boring weekend just from a results kind of pickleball standpoint. I didn't think there's a lot of notable things this weekend, other than when Ben Johns is engaged in singles, he is still clearly the best singles player as well.
Yeah, he did not like losing to Christian Alshon before and going on the vlog. And 1 and 2 sad days for the Tweener King.
And that backhand pass of Ben's keeps looking better.
Yeah, it does. He keeps working, keeps going in the lab. The last thing I wanted to talk about was Beer City Open. It's coming up this weekend. I think the Beer City Open is an interesting tournament because it's not affiliated with the PPA. PPA is letting their players, a number of months ago, they let their players play Beer City if they wanted to. So you have a number of the PPA players in this draw, along with some of the APP people. We didn't get it much. We don't get it at all, like very much this year. Either you're in a PPA field as an APP player, it's tough. It'll be a more sort of even playing field in terms of seeding, especially on the men's side.
How are they seeding it?
I have no idea.
Then how do we know it's more even?
I just assume it's going to be more even because it's not a rigged draw. Well, maybe it's a rigged draw, but not a rigged PPA draw.
Okay.
I was just
curious.
It's more
That's
even.
a big presumption.
Okay, well, I don't think it can be.
Maybe we'll have to try to get a hold of Andrea Coop and find out.
It can't be any less of an even playing field than the PPA.
PPA just operates on points and coin tosses, bud.
It's very even, very, very coincidental coin tosses. I like, so the reason why I want to talk about this a little bit was because you had like Rob Nunnery's playing with Andre Dayskew. You've got J-Dub and Dylan, Pablo and Fed, Zane and Jay, Connor Garnett, Rafa Hewitt. James is playing with Altaf. I'm very curious to see how Nunnery and Dayskew do.
Yeah, that was kind of my thing. I think this is gonna be like the APP last year, and I expect J-Dub and Dylan to cruise to gold. But it will be interesting to see how Andre and Rob stack up against a couple of those second to third tier PPA teams. So it'll be an interesting gauge on those guys. Especially Andre, who we really don't get to see outside of MLP against the PPA players. And we know Rob thinks he's a premier player, and this will be a good chance for him to show teams that maybe they did make a big mistake not drafting him to premier. Maybe Ben Johns will be looking and saying that's the guy I should have taken at 48.
I think that Rob is right on the border of being a premier player. It's tough for him. He's not going to be picked in that 48 slot. He's got other stuff going on. It's just, Zane and Jay is a team that if you're Robin and Andre, you want to be beating them if you see them. I think you'll have a double elimination draw in this one. I think it should be true double elimination.
I think that is it. I'm not sure.
I just assume it will be. And
good
so
to see you did your homework.
I did lots of homework. I have the draw. I had my teams up here. I think that it's important for these people, if they're not motivated to play Challenger in season 2 here, they should be motivated because you've got a premier draft again. There will be one more draft at least going into 2024. So there's still 6 months to show how good you are. And, we'll have some mix up of, especially, I think it's really actually Rob and Andre is the most interesting thing about this tournament for me.
Yeah, no, I think they're interesting. I think Andre in general is interesting. I'm curious how he and Coop do. Also, a little just curious to see what Coop looks like. She's been hurt some. She hasn't quite looked like herself. So I'll be curious how she looks too. I have the Kawamotos actually as the favorites in women's doubles over Coop and Jessie. And we also get a preview of the Georgia Johnson, Lauren Stratman MLP partnership this weekend. So
I would call that the Stratman Johnson experience, because I think it will be an experience.
When they're firing on all cylinders, they'll be scary, but I think that team's going to run a little hot and cold.
I think what also interests me about this tournament is that you're getting some kind of different partnerships, because the PPA gets, you get a lot of this, at least some of the top teams stay the same, but you've got a number of sort of different partnerships, or at least different, or maybe some of the people that have teamed up but that have a chance to make some noise. So you have like Irina and Federer playing together, Jesse's playing with Zane, Andre is playing with Coop, Jackie, I think she might have played with Rafa before, but she's playing with Rafa. Got to get that Addy power in there. So you have a number of teams, like even James is playing with his sister. I don't know how well that's going to go, but you have like Milan Reigns playing with Connor Garnett. It's just, you get to see them in a different landscape, which I think is just, it's more fun sometimes than seeing them in, like, you have the APP and we now know sort of how those APPs are kind of going. You have some different teams, but the PPA, you kind of know how they're going to go. You have some upsets, but it's sort of the same kind of thing.
For sure, some variety's good. Another team I actually had was, I'm curious to see how DJ Young and Callan Dawson do this weekend. Their team that a couple years ago we saw have some success. They've gone their separate ways. Obviously, Callan and Tyler Loom were bronze medal machines last year, but
bronze stallions, some might say.
Some might say, though Jay DeVilliers and Tyson McGuffin kind of trademarked that in my mind before that. But I'm just actually very curious how in this field those two do. Can they get to a championship Sunday? Do they make the podium? Like, I don't really have them favored to make a podium, but maybe they'll surprise us.
Yeah, in classic prep, I didn't actually see them in the draw, but DJ and Callan's an interesting team. Does Callan go on the left now?
I would think that they would still go Callan right, DJ left, but Callan, as we know, does play some on the left, and DJ seems fairly committed to the right side specialist, so maybe they play straight up. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll be watching this weekend. There's a bunch of tournaments coming up.
Yeah, the other tournament this weekend is the Seattle Metro. Surprised you're not talking about that. They don't actually have quite the same field as they usually do, but it's actually one of our favorite tournaments of the year. Will be there, so it should be fun, and it's got a couple of the APP stalwarts in attendance, including Susanna Barr and Megan and Ryler DeHart, so it should be a fun tournament too, and they honestly put on one of the best, like, if you want to call it local tournaments out there, so looking forward to that.
That's a top-notch preview there. Yeah, so I think, we're not exactly sure how we're going to end these. Producer Allissa is going to bring us Girlfriend Corner at some point. Is it going to be today, Producer Allissa?
No.
Okay, we're not going to get...
She previewed one in our car ride home from a tournament yesterday, so I'm disappointed. I thought she had the takes ready, but...
The people need Girlfriend Corner. I actually thought of this like an hour before you came over, and I don't know if we're going to have to not do this, but I want to do this segment. I want to do a how long have they been playing for segment when we see people lie about how long they've been playing for.
Are you talking about Alex Strong and her Washington Post article?
I think we should be calling these people out. It's unacceptable.
Or are we talking about Jack Sock?
Oh, Jack Sock! I forgot about Jack, but we should leave it to one a week. And
we call out Jack Sock on Twitter, so yeah, that one we already did. But Alex Strong said she found it in COVID, but was playing tournament in 2019. So unless she was a early COVID adapter, we'll say, I don't think that's true.
Well, the Washington Post article, the fluff piece, said that she just learned about the kitchen after what the kitchen was after COVID, and because we've been doing this a little while now. We've been like following pro pickleball since pre-COVID, since probably 2018. And I was like, I think Alex Strong's been playing longer than than COVID. And I look it up, and there she is. She's got a 3-5 tournament, I think, with her dad, and fairly early in 2019, which means you have to have started at some point in 2019. So maybe this will be our end segment if producer Allissa doesn't want to give us girlfriend corner, which the people really do need. But when we see it, we'll do a how long have they been playing for segment, and Alex Trong is 2019, not post-COVID 2020.
If we don't get that, I might have to do my own fashion corner, and I'm not sure the people want that. So.
You have the best fashion sense of any pickleball men's doubles partner I've ever had.
Thanks, bud.
So so that, I think that will wrap it up for today. So thanks everyone for listening. With this being our first podcast, subscribe on Apple, subscribe on Spotify, give us a review. Go to the blog, nmlpickleball.com. You can see all our stuff there.
I presume people listening to the first one probably have listened.
Well, go to nml.com, nmlpickleball.com. Give us more views. We don't have any sponsors to shout out yet, and we probably need to be shooting our shot more. So if anyone wants some mildly controversial, formerly anonymous opinion bloggers who are now podcasting to sponsor, you can hit us up.
Way to sell us big, bud.
and follow us just on social everywhere. So Instagram, Twitter, now Threads, Facebook. It's all NML Pickleball. So follow us and come back. We're gonna try and keep doing these. Let us know how you feel about these podcasts, even if you hate them. But we will see you next time.